Hey, it's the Profit Answer Man, Rocky Lalvani. If you're new to the podcast, check out my interview with Mike Michalowicz. It's episode number 2. If you want to hear about each chapter in the Profit First book, go back and listen to episodes 3 through 13. Episode 1 is the why and how. On the Profit Answer Man, we learn money mastery without all the complicated accounting mumbo-jumbo using a simple system. Your accountant is busy documenting your transactions and creating a rearview mirror of what happened. My guess is you don't even look at the reports they sent you. If you're like most business owners, you struggle with this, and it's not your fault. We aren't taught money in school, and accountants aren't taught how to be profitable. The Profit First system created by Mike Michalowicz works, and he certified me to help you implement the system in your business. Remember, the new equation is sales minus profit equals expenses. Let's face it, without cash flow, you can't pay your employees, buy needed materials, or pay your mortgage and support your family. I help you to do that and more, so you can focus on the parts of the business you love and receive the rewards for your labor and investment into your business. The stronger you are as a business owner, the more jobs you create, the better we are as a country. Small business owners are the backbone of America, and for that, you deserve to be well rewarded. Just remember, more revenue does not equal more profit. That's why we focus on the bottom line. I'm currently reading Traction, and I know, without a doubt, I'm an integrator. Some of you may be visionaries. That's the perfect match for me, because I can put numbers to your big, hairy, audacious ideas and show you which ones have the possibility to scale and go big, and which ones are guaranteed to lose you money out of the box. A big part of what I do is prevent mistakes, and they can be costly. I can also help you remove the obstacles to achieving your goals by removing as much risk as possible. If you're into Myers-Briggs and you're an ENTJ, my INTJ skills will help you sort through the 9 bad ideas you have and show you which one is the great one that will lead you to success. I love to read, and when I find a universal principle that applies in many areas, I know that I'm onto something. Compounding works with wealth, health, debt, and many other parts of life, so I know it's something to pay attention to. Another principle that's less well known is Parkinson's law. It's why we have lifestyle inflation. It's why we waste time and money. We're going to talk about that today with our guest. Stephanie Shivar-Hogan is president and founder of Gallantry Coaching and Consulting. With more than 2 decades of experience coaching in the corporate world, Stephanie has worked across multiple industries, including finance, accounting, real estate, healthcare, insurance, and marketing. She's partnered with Fortune 500 CEOs, frontline leaders, corporate team members, entrepreneurs, and everyone in between. As a certified coach with the International Coaching Federation, Stephanie takes great pride in her commitment to using cutting-edge practices to help her clients find success. Stephanie's a certified 12-week year trainer based on the best-selling book 12-Week Year by Brian Moran and Michael Lennington. Stephanie is committed to helping her clients implement these tools and processes to achieve more in 12 weeks than most do in 12 months. After being in the coaching industry for over 20 years, Stephanie also became a certified facilitator for the global initiative by Google called I Am Remarkable. Since then, she's continued her business on a scalability expert, talked on the 12-week year, hosted webinars, and spoke on I Am Remarkable several times. Let's meet our remarkable guest. Welcome to the Profit Answer Man, Stephanie Shivar-Hogan. It's great to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me, Rocky.
Can you share with the audience a little bit about your business and what you do?
Absolutely. I am the founder and a certified coach with Gallantry Coaching and Consulting. We work predominantly with small business owners, sales professionals, and corporate leaders to help them to become more efficient and effective in their personal and professional lives. So as a scalability expert, it's my goal to help people to find time in their lives to either go after big, hairy, audacious goals, or in some cases, they want to use that extra margin that we create to create more work-life balance or take on another challenge in their lives. So I'm also a certified 12-week-year trainer, and we use that as an underlying principle, not only from a training perspective, but also when we work with our executive coaching clients. So I'm super excited to be with you today.
And I'm excited to chat about the 12-week year. I think this is my second quarter using it. And it's been very helpful for me to kind of define my goals and create sprints. And we'll kind of talk about how Profit First and 12-week year are built on the same framework, what I kind of love. So how did you learn about Profit First?
I was actually introduced to Profit First by one of my clients. He recently, last year, kind of near the beginning of the pandemic. So I would say probably in the first quarter, beginning of second quarter, a friend of his started reading it and said it was a really great book. He said that he was in the middle of it and he loved it. I got a copy of it right away, started reading it, and started sharing it with a lot of my clients. And I would say any type of small business situation that you're in, if you haven't had the opportunity to read this book, you're really missing the boat. It's interesting when I describe it to people that they were a little intimidated, but once they got into the book, I've never had anyone say to me, I regret reading that book, or I didn't learn a ton by just taking some time and reading it.
What was it that intimidated them?
I think, well, as a numbers person, you know this, people hate numbers. As a small business owner, unless you have a background in finance or accounting, most people, not only are they intimidated, but they hate numbers, right? I think this really demystifies how numbers are calculated and how the program works, and that it's not this very technical, there's not some secret sauce, so to speak, that those of us who may not be as well versed in finance can use a system like this very easily. But I think beyond just the methodology, it's also a mindset. It changes the way that you're thinking about money. And so if you approach this and have been intimidated by money in the past, this is a great opportunity to kind of transform how it is that you're thinking about money within your company.
And I don't know, like sometimes they do and sometimes they don't, but did some of your clients share with you any of their financial struggles, or do they just not talk about it?
So we get into a lot of times the dirty details of the financial struggles or opportunities that they're, faced with on any given Sunday, so to speak. But for them, I would say a lot of my clients, they're finding financial success, but it's all about more, right? And in the spirit of COVID, I think a lot of people have tried to simplify those things. So how do we become more profitable by really realizing it's not just about going after more business, but becoming more acutely aware of the details and the idiosyncrasies around, costs or payroll or, how much money is like leaving the organization in addition to how much money is coming in? And are we going after the right types of business that really truly are profitable? And I would say some clients that I've been having conversations with, when I'm asking that question, they're flat out saying, I don't even know the answer to that. I've never thought about it that way. So it's helped people from a repositioning perspective to become more aware of what types of things in their business are more profitable, not because of their impression or interpretation, but to really put the numbers on the page and analyze the numbers and statistically speaking, make decisions about what the most profitable parts of their business are and begin to grow those parts of their business accordingly.
I had this aha moment. Could you imagine watching a game on sports and you don't know the score. You just kind of go by your gut. I remember when the kids were little and I would coach soccer and they wouldn't have scoreboards and the kids had no clue. Like, oh yeah, we're winning. I'm like, it was 6-0 them.
Right.
They went with their gut. And as business owners, we want to go with our gut. But the reality is, when you have a scoreboard, it becomes very easy for everybody to see what's going on, and you face the reality of whatever that situation is, good or bad. So how was your implementation of Profit First in your business?
In my practice, I will tell you, for me, even being a numbers person, right? I have a degree in finance. I'm the daughter of a CPA, the daughter-in-law of a CPA. I am a numbers person. I used to work in finance and accounting for years and years. But when I started to look at this process and started to think through it, I'm like, oh, that just seems like so much work. Like, I've got a day job. Rocky, you and I have talked about this before. I have 4 children who are 100% at home learning. I've got a lot on my plate. To add this as one more thing as a business owner that I needed to do seemed really intimidating to me at first. And so for me in 2020, as we were kind of coming through the end of COVID, I started to implement some of the different aspects of Profit First, but I was not all in. And I think the lessons that I learned in hindsight is it's not nearly as scary as we'd like to make it out to be, right? It's always scary the first time you do it. And then after that, you're like, oh, that was so easy. Why didn't I do it sooner? But I think also it gave me an opportunity to kind of dabble in it. And so I really kind of understood the philosophies and the concepts behind that to make better decisions in the future. So for me, I think I'm really appreciative now that in hindsight, I did have an opportunity to kind of go through it and start to work on it. But now here we are in the 3rd month of the year of 2021, and I'm all in. And it's really made a profound impact on my ability to understand, where is all the money? What is it doing? Where are the most profitable aspects? And it's really focused me on how it is that I am developing my practice in 2021.
Yeah, a lot of people struggle with implementation. I can't tell you, Mike says so many times, he does the talk and people come and listen to it. And then they see him again 2 years later and they're like, oh, I love this, Mike. This is great. I heard you talk 2 years ago. I got the book. I read it. And his first question is usually, did you implement? And the invariable answer is usually, no, I haven't started yet. And the reality is you just got to rip the Band-Aid off and go for it. It cannot screw up because the money is all within your accounts. So it's never going to disappear on you. It's always there. You might have to steal from yourself, but you have total control. And little by little, you get more comfortable and you find your rhythm. It takes a while to find a rhythm. I tell my clients, it'll probably take us, depending on where they're at, it might take us 3 to 6 months just to get a rhythm. And then it might take us 2 years to get to the targets that Mike suggests that you be at, if it's possible at all. Some businesses just can't do that. And then we have that talk. What do you want to do? How do you want to redo your business? Is there a way to think and make a much bigger pivot towards things that are more profitable?
Well, and I would say be kind to yourself, right? Don't feel like, some of these numbers that are in here, it's almost like going to the gym, right? We're like, I'm going to dig straight in and I'm going to make the percentages really high because I think that I can make that work out. We would never just show up at the gym one day and start lifting 500 pounds, right? Over time, we're going to bring in the small weights and the heavier weights and the even heavier weights. So I think if you are not kind to yourself and you're not careful, you can bite off more than you can chew. And I think for me, that was one of the things that I wanted to start out really kind of understanding before I made a decision about where my numbers were. What are the percentages that I'm going to be using before I just decide to, cut off my left arm and my right arm and go all in. I wanted to feel good and comfortable about it. And I feel very confident in those numbers as a result of easing my way in. And then now I feel like I can be all in.
And we tell people you can start with low targets. That's actually better than starting with high targets. Because if you start with high targets, you mess up your business. If you start with low targets, for a lot of people, we'll say start your profit account with just 1%. And if you're struggling in business, start your tax account with just 1%. Just do baby steps. And over time, you'll slowly make adjustments. And that's perfectly fine. So what has been the feedback from the clients that you've introduced to the book?
Well, as I mentioned before, I would say the big thing is that they're intimidated by me even bringing it up, right? In a lot of cases, when we talk about scalability, most of my clients that come to me are talking about time, which we are also relating that to stress. And as we know, stress in a lot of cases comes in the form of money. And so how do we gain control, so to speak, of our profit, of our numbers within our company so that we can find less stress, less frustration in our world? But again, I would say it's not just the tactics, it's the mindset around how it is that your attitude is towards money. The concept, I jokingly say that it's kind of like the envelope system that your great grandma used to use. It's kind of like that, but it's far more about mindset. Just read it and let me know what you think. And every time about halfway through, they call me, especially if they do the book on tape, because I think Mike does such an amazing job of kind of really talking to you, almost like you're at the bar having a beer together. So if you haven't read the book, I really encourage you to listen to the book on tape. I did both. I read the book, or I guess I followed along in the book because I needed to take notes, but listened to the book on tape while I was running. And it's like you're having a conversation with a friend. It's not like, the big intimidating accountant at the firm with the starched white shirt and the suit, the 3-piece suit on, is trying to intimidate you and make you, put money away in the savings account. Kind of that horror story from our childhood, right? When our parents took us to go put the money in the savings account for the first time. From the story from Mary Poppins, right? That's kind of the visual that I have. It doesn't have to be like that. You can have a really great relationship with the money, not only in your personal, but in your professional life. And so how is it that you establish that relationship, and how can someone like Mike take you into that world, not feeling so intimidated by the things that are waiting for you on the other side?
And you are correct. He's pretty lighthearted, and he's pretty honest about his own struggles. And this system is very much like the envelope system. As a matter of fact, we use that analogy all the time. It's the envelope system for your business. We've just adjusted the principles to make it work for your business. Mm-hmm. So it does. So one of the principles that Profit First is based on is Parkinson's Law, which basically says you will use up all of the resources allocated. There's another book which is based on the exact same principles, and that is the one that you teach people about, the 12-week year. Basically getting done in 12 weeks what most people take an entire year to do. Because again, we didn't constrain our time like we didn't constrain our money. Love for you to share with the audience a little bit about that book, the principles, and how you help them.
I would say, so understanding the disciplines and the principles of the 12-week year are, as you said, there's so many parallels between those two. But the 5 disciplines that we really use in the 12-week year that Brian and Michael Linnington have outlined is visioning, planning, process control, scorekeeping, and time use. If you parallel that back to the Profit First, what is the vision of your organization and what are you trying to achieve? What kind of plan have you created around that? Obviously, 12-week year planning is a little bit different. Process control for us in the Profit First space really is that envelope system. Scorekeeping, I think in a lot of cases, we're just doing a lot of things in our business based on how we feel instead of, as we were talking about earlier, what is the score of the game? And if you're in the bottom of the ninth and the bases are loaded, you're going to act very differently than if you're ahead by 10. And you're killing it on the field, right? So understanding the scorekeeping and being able to be, I would say, brave enough to confront whatever the numbers say, positive or negative, I think is really helpful. And the last piece I think that's been most impactful is time use. I mean, profit first isn't something that just happens in a vacuum, right? How are you using your time blocking system that we talk about in the 12-week year? Where are you blocking out time so that you can be intentional about, using the profit first system? And really what I like to talk to my clients about is going back and reviewing the tapes, right? How do we analyze what happened in the last month so we can make better decisions going forward? So I think for me, that whole Parkinson's law, how are we using our time accordingly has probably been the biggest impact. Seeing the parallel between those two areas, scorekeeping and scorekeeping and time use. How are we using time or allocating time to make sure that we're committing to profit first? And then what do the scores look like on a regular basis so that we're able to adjust accordingly?
So how do you do scorekeeping with time?
That's a great question. I guess I hadn't thought of them being together, but so I would say, how frequently are you spending the time that you need to be analyzing the tapes, right? From a scorekeeping perspective, if I'm committing to sit down with myself for 3 hours a month or 5 hours a month to review my numbers, when is that actually scheduled? And then also, if that's part of my 12-week year goal is to implement the profit first, what gets measured gets done. So am I checking the box to say I committed that I was going to sit down and review the numbers or study the numbers for 3 or 5 hours this month? What are the hours that I did? And am I committed to those? And then checking that off the list to make sure that it actually got done.
So I know how I run my calendar. I have certain days for certain things, and then I have certain tasks, and if they're repeatable tasks, like the podcast production stuff, it's on my calendar at a specified time, and it auto repeats so that I know that, every time this day comes around, this is what my focus is. I've got days on my calendar that are blocked off so nobody can schedule onto my time. And then if I've got a task or certain things that I need to get done over time, I will go into my calendar and I will block time for those tasks to be done. So, for example, if you needed to do a profit first allocation and you're going to do it on the 10th and the 25th, then on the 10th and the 25th, I would literally have time blocked on my calendar, and it would just automatically repeat every month, or so that the time was set aside. Mm-hmm. And I do the 12-week year, and one of the principles of the 12-week year, every quarter is 13 weeks. So the first week of the 12-week year is done for planning purposes. So I've actually gone into my calendar, and in perpetuity, every 13th week is blocked off so that nobody can book time on my calendar. Mm-hmm. So that I have the ability to then focus at that time on planning out my next 12 weeks and what those goals are. And the good thing that it does to me, because I love to learn, I love to read books, I know you do too, it becomes hard to say, how am I going to manage all of this stuff? And so I pick a theme for each quarter. And whatever that theme is, then I can say to myself, okay, I want to read these books. It's going to go into that quarter's theme of learning, that quarter's theme of my big picture, and I will put it there. And so it makes it easier for me to say yes and no. Am I doing this right?
Absolutely. I would say part of the only hesitation I have with the, like you're saying, the 10th and the 15th is that I always try to have a time at the beginning of the month, whether it's the first Friday of the month or the last Friday of the previous month, and sit down and analyze, like, is that actually going to work, right? Is the 15th actually falling on a Saturday?
Well, the 10th and the 25th are profit first rhythms. They're not 12-week
I'm sorry,
year
10th and
rhythms.
25th.
Yeah,
yes.
They're not.
But making sure that that we have that time allocated and doing the audit to make sure that it happens. And I would say the other piece is the principles of the 12-week year are accountability, time commitment, and greatness in the moment. And the challenge that I see a lot of people are faced with, back to your 10th and 25th of the month analysis dates, is that we schedule time to meet with ourselves and we are not holding true to that time that we've scheduled. And I think the biggest challenge is that people have this impression that we're not worthy or we're not the most important thing, right? You've heard this whole philosophy is that you can't pour from an empty cup. If you work out, you're not being selfish. If you're taking care of your own health, you're actually able to give to others. If you're not able to truly make the commitments that you've scheduled time for yourself to analyze things in your business, you're making a huge mistake, because your number one customer or client is you. And if you're not willing to stay true to that meeting that you've scheduled with yourself, that's a real problem. And so that greatness in the moment, that accountability, that commitment to yourself to actually hold true to that time that you set aside for yourself to analyze on those specific days is critical. Now, you know what? Life happens. Things go on. If you need to move it, it's fine. But don't skip it for the sake of something else. If you need to switch it out with something else that's on your calendar or move the date, that's okay. But don't skip that time, because it's so critical, not only in your commitment in the 12-week year, for profit first, right? If you're not looking up at the scoreboard on a regular basis to see what the numbers are, you're not able to make adjustments accordingly. So making sure that you're true to that commitment for yourself. If you put on your calendar, you know what? You're your number one client. Show up for that meeting that you've scheduled for yourself.
And you absolutely have to do that. That was how I built my rhythm of going to the gym. I decided that I was going to go to the gym Monday, Wednesday, Friday, first thing in the morning. And so nobody else could schedule Monday, Wednesday, Friday, first thing in the morning. In the rare instance that it happened, that it was something I couldn't avoid, I would go into my calendar and I would put my new exercise time at a different point in that day that I knew I could make it work. And so I just, again, like you said, sometimes you have to move things around, but I never skipped it. I just moved it. And I guess I'm lucky. When I put stuff on my calendar, I do it. I'm true to that. And so from that standpoint, I'm pretty good about it. As long as it gets to my calendar, it gets done. And I put 1 million tasks on my calendar. And
That's awesome.
more often than not, my tasks get done before they need to. And so this is where I used to really struggle. I used to be like, oh, I have 15 minutes. What should I do? Let me think about this. I got 15 minutes. What should I do? And then the next thing I knew, 15 minutes were gone. And nothing got done because I didn't know what to do in the 15 minutes. Now that I have tasks, I just look at my task list. I go, oh, okay, I can get that done in 15 minutes. Click. Oh, I can get that done in 6 minutes. Click. And they get done.
Mm-hmm. It's shocking if you can just schedule the time to actually sit down and do it. But I will tell you, Rocky, not everyone is, I think, as comfortable or can dive into the deep end of the swimming pool, if you will, with numbers like maybe you and I can. And so sometimes it really is going to take walking away from kind of the office and the time in the office to actually be strategic and be purposeful and to get into deep work so that we can analyze. I will tell you, even yesterday I was doing some kind of first of the month things to help my bookkeeper to get the numbers all put together for our next quarter, and I ran out of time. And so I will tell you that sometimes if you have to be intentional about blocking that time for a longer period of time, it's going to become critical that you are being very strategic about scheduling that time and not getting interrupted. I would say you're probably the anomaly, but just to quote here in the 12-week year book, that if you're interrupted by things like emails or instant messages, that it would take you 15 minutes to get back to the original task that you were working on. I'm on page 129 of the 12-week year book, that 28% of the average professional's time in a day was spent on interruptions and associated recovery time. That's 11 distracted hours of a 40-hour work week. So how are we being intentional when we're sitting down to do our profit first, to making sure that we're eliminating all distractions, maybe even some cases leaving our regular work environment so that we can really deep dive into the numbers to get that task done without interruption? Because if we have to, we've all been there before, right? We get into some numbers, we're analyzing something, the phone rings, then we get off the phone, then we're processing the conversation, then we're just trying to get back to where we were before. If we didn't take that phone call, we probably could have finished that task in half the time versus when it is that we're interrupted. So not only allocating that time, but making sure that that time is interruption free.
So my phone is on silent. It's very rare that I will turn the ringer on. The only time I will turn the ringer on my phone on is if I am expecting a call and I know it's coming and I don't want to miss it. I'll flip the ringer on. The rest of the time, 99% ringer off. So the phone sits next to me, but it doesn't disrupt me because it can't. Like, it's silent. My emails, they don't ding. Like, all the noises are turned off. So my browser is not allowed to make noise. All of it is set to do not disturb. And so I don't have to worry, ooh, what was that? Ooh, what was that? Like, I'm not getting that dopamine hit and being triggered with those types of things. So then it really helps to stay focused.
I love it. I love it.
And I think part of that was because of podcasting. Like, when you're recording shows, you have to turn everything off. So I just turned it off and I never turned it back on.
That's the best way. The only people that might be looking for me is my husband or my little people, but they don't look for me much anymore in the COVID space. They just walk down the hallway.
Well, yeah. And if they look for me, they'll pop in the door. And, if I have time, I'm like, yeah, I can do it. And if I don't, then they know.
Yep.
My daughter is the one who struggles the most with this. She really needs block time. She's like, when my door is shut, don't come in.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she turns everything off, and she works on what she has to work on, and she's really good about that. Me, I'm nowhere near as.
Well, and unfortunately, the 12-week year has a lot of principles that I think that, Rocky, you probably feel the same way. I wish I would have known about some of these ideas when I was younger. Some of them I did, but not all of them. That I think this is an amazing gift to be able to teach, not just our maybe teenager or high school age kids, but what are some of the principles and ideas that we can even share with kids who are younger than that so that they can start to learn some of these tactics and understand how they can be more productive so that they have less stress as well, right? Not any different than teaching them. I was having a conversation with my daughters the other day. My oldest is 14 and is starting to save her money. She has her heart dead set on buying a Tesla. Like, this is the only thing that she can think about. And so I made the comment, I was like, that's fine. When you guys work this summer, I'll be taking 50%. And there was this gasp and all the oxygen left the car when I was driving. What do you mean, Mom? I'm like, I don't want it. We're just going to put it in the savings account. And I even said to my oldest, if you want to put more than that in there, I'm okay with that, but let's be thinking about what percentage of your income that you should be putting away for this goal that you have so that you can still live your life, right? You're still a teenage girl. You want to go buy, bath bombs and hair straighteners and all those things. But what other things do we need to, or should we be putting into that pot so that you can use those funds on a later date for the big goal that you have for yourself, right? How does that parallel to how it is that business owners would behave if they learned those skills when they were much younger?
And we were really good about teaching our kids those skills from a very, very young age. It's just, we've always lived with those types of principles in place. The one thing that I really like about the 12-week year is that you are so focused. It's a sprint. So the way it's explained to me, imagine I wanted to learn something and I said, okay, I'm going to devote an hour a week to learn it. And it's going to take me 50 hours. Well, it would take me an entire year to learn it. And I probably wouldn't be that great at it. But what if I said, hey, I want to learn this, and I shoved it down and I did 4 hours a week for 12 weeks? I just saved myself 3/4 of the year. And because I'm so much more focused on learning that task or implementing that task, I'm probably going to get even better results. And you can even squish it down even further and say, you know what? I really need to learn this. I'm going to turn everything off. I'm going to spend the next 5 days. And I just go super deep, and I'm done in 1 week what would have taken a year. And that's just powerful, because then you can go use that information and move forward faster.
Yeah, so the 12-week year, I think the magic, if you will, of the process is that we're able to do things in a period of time when we have really focused behaviors that we didn't even know we were capable of doing. If you think back about the fourth quarter, either professionally or personally, if you're trying to achieve a goal, it's funny, magic seems to happen, right? We're able to close that deal or finish that report, or be able to run those last few miles. If we have a goal and a deadline, we can literally move mountains. But the challenge is that sometimes we haven't actually fully created that line in the sand, that deadline, that finish line, and we haven't fully articulated what it is that we're trying to achieve between now and then, right? What are the actual numbers? Are we using SMART goals around those things? Specific, measurable, time bound? Are we being very specific about the thing that we're trying to do, and we're measuring it, right? What gets measured gets done. And so if we're using all of those tactics to be very purposeful and focused, which means that a lot of other things need to fall by the wayside, right? Being focused means that there are things in your view that you're not looking at. So what are we going to say no to so that we can achieve more and we can get closer to the finish line or hit that number of what it is that we're trying to achieve in that shorter period of time?
And that is so true. We need to constrain our time and our money, and it will go a lot further than we can ever imagine.
Mm-hmm.
If people would like to learn more about you, connect, find out about the 12-week year program that you offer, what's the best way for them to do that?
Absolutely. You can find us on the internet. We're on all the social media channels as well. Gallantry CC, so either gallantrycc.com or Facebook, LinkedIn, or Twitter, all Gallantry CC as well. So it's GALLANTRYCC.com. I will tell you, Gallantry is actually going courageously into battle. So I would say both relevant to the 12-week year and Profit First. How is it that we're going courageously into the battle of being successful in our business personally and professionally? So with that, Rocky, thank you so much.
And thank you so much for joining us. As always, a wonderful conversation. Parkinson's Law has really helped me with time and money. And I'm going to see where else it applies and start using it to my advantage. Just as Profit First is a game changer for money, 12-week year has been a game changer for my time and goals. If you haven't read it, check it out. I'll put links to Stephanie in the show notes. Check her out too. Remember, you don't need more resources. You need to be more resourceful. We focus on the bottom line. If you want a done-for-you service, you can have me as your Chief Profitability Officer, because you have your zone of genius and want to spend your time doing what you love. I only work with a handful of clients, so they get my full attention. I work with business owners who have or are growing to $500,000 to $5 million in revenue. You can use the scheduling link in the show notes to get on my calendar for a good fit conversation to see if I'm the right person to support you and how I can help you. If you want to learn about living the life of your dreams, check out my other podcast, Richer Soul. As we close out, let's repeat the mantra. Revenue is vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Have an abundant and profitable week.